Hello folks, my name's Lee Townsend and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit open-ended, it's a little bit unplanned. It's kind of planned, but not really. The subject matter's there, but I don't really know where I'm going completely with it because it's a bit of an experiment today. So I'll apologise about that up front, because if the ending's a little bit funky, that's why. But I thought this video might be interesting to you guys that are looking for guitar and music related content here on YouTube. And speaking of guitar and music related content here on YouTube, if you're looking forward to this video, please make sure that you're subscribed by hitting the subscribe link down below. We recently hit 11,000 subscribers here on the channel, this week in fact. So those of you who have been following the channel, thank you very much for your continued support and everything. And as I said, this one is a bit of a funky one. So usually I would do things like this by myself to not kind of trip over my words in a video, if that makes sense. But I thought it might be interesting to see my thought process or whatever. So those of you who've been following my channel for a long time will recognise the famous Pedalboard, which I've been using since this channel's inception, and it's been my main rig when I play live for the last 10 years, with exception of the Boss RC500, which has been added later, like a year or two ago now, which replaced the RC30. But for all intents and purposes, the Pedalboard is the same. But all of the pedals in the board actually only serve one purpose each. And for those of you who don't know, I actually play in a couple of bands as well. And I've recently acquired a new piece of gear which has made my Line 6 HX effects a little bit obsolete. Not obsolete with regards to its use, but I don't use it anymore. So I thought I would try and incorporate it into a new solo rig. I will still be using the RC500 because that thing just kicks ass. And while the HX effects does have a looper, it can't do what the RC500 can do. So my new setup is going to look something like this. And this is quite a loose thing. The RC500 is kind of in shot, but I've focused the camera on the HX effects because that's going to be the brains of the operation. And also, Line 6 have got a tendency for supplying their products with ridiculous power supplies. So I don't actually have a power supply within my board that can power both of these yet. But this video is more or less going to be about my thought process of how I'm going to set it up with regards to signal flow and things like that. So, getting straight in, the way I've got this set up is I'm putting the loop station in an effects loop of the HX effects because that will allow me to choose where the loop station fits in the signal flow. And I'll kind of show you what I mean right now on that. So I've got a new preset here which is empty. There's nothing in there at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into signal flow mode because then you can see more or less what's going on. So the way this works is this line here is the flow of the signal. Guitar goes into the left and it goes out into the mixer or interface to the right. And by turning this big knob here, I can go across each of these blocks. They're all empty blocks at the moment, but the HX effects allows you to have 9 blocks simultaneously in any one preset. And I hope this all makes sense, but if it doesn't, the comment section's always open down below. You can ask me questions if anything doesn't make sense, and I'll try and get back to you. So what I'm going to do is try to recreate my old pedal board within this, but then add a couple of extra bits because I see scope for some growth here because I've got all of these things at my fingertips, so to speak. So the HX effects can mimic virtually any effects pedal that there is. It's an amazing piece of kit. So what I'll do up front is I'll add the effects loop, which obviously is the RC500 in this case. So if I go to a block, I'm going to go up here because if you remember in my old pedal board, before it was actually the other way round. Before the loop pedal, I had a tuner and an octave pedal, which they need to be before the loop pedal because, for example, the tuner, it doesn't matter so much, but the octave pedal needs to be before, like between the guitar and the looper, because I want to be able to record things in with the octave, but then turn the octave pedal off and the octave effect still be applied to what's recorded. So if I put it afterwards, I would loop in with the octave pedal, but the octave on would affect everything that had been looped already. I hope that makes sense. It should do. I've gone over this in past videos and stuff, sort of briefly, but hopefully this will make sense as I start to do it. So I'm going to go in and place the loop pedal in the third to last block, because after the loop pedal, I want to have an EQ block and a reverb block to mimic my old board. So I push the big knob. That's what it's called. I'm not just trying to be funny there. That's actually what it's called. I'm going to go down to, should be send and return. So I want to add there a mono send and return block, which is going to be FX loop 2. Because what I've actually got here is I've got the FX loop send going into the input of the loop station and the output of the loop station going back into the return of the effects loop. I'm using effects loop 2 just because it's below. Physically, the inputs are below, and I like it. I like the cable sat as close to the floor as possible, if that makes sense. So that is the effects loop. So where that's placed there, hopefully you can see that in the camera up there. But this block now is going to be the RC500. I'm actually going to select here and turn the switch off because I want this block to always be turned on. I don't want the capability of being able to disarm the RC500 because that wouldn't make any sense. So that block is always going to be on within this preset. So I'm going to move to the next block and add the EQ block. So again, press the big knob, go down to the EQ block, mono EQ. I'm going to go down and choose the Cali Q graphic. And the reason I use this particular graphic is because it's just a 5-band one, and too many bands in a graphic, I get a little bit funky with it. I prefer just to have basic. So how I normally set my graphic is I have the highest frequency boosted. So I'll boost that by a decibel. The second to highest, I'm going to have 0. The middle one, I'm going to lower by a decibel. Second to bassiest one in the middle, and then the bassiest one I'm going to boost by a decibel. Just that's how I normally set my EQ for my guitar. So I'm just going to do it like that. Obviously, I've not got, I'm not playing anything yet at the moment, so I don't know how it'll sound, but I'm just basically setting this up before I pick the guitar up. And that, there's no need to have a foot switch assigned to that, but I will leave one set up. I'm not actually sure how the numbering works, so it's automatically set as FS6, which I think's up here, but it might be down here, I'm not sure. But we'll move on to the next block, and we'll put the reverb in there. So again, press the big knob, go to reverb, go to mono, and I'm going to use a dynamic room reverb. I'm going to have decay of 1.5 seconds, and I'm going to have my mix on 30% will do. As I said, this is just for now. So if I now go to mode, I'll see actually, yeah, these were placed down here. So I'm going to put the reverb up the top there and the graphic EQ up the top there, because I don't ever want to switch them off. It's handy to have the foot switches there just in case, but they're always going to be switched on as they were on my other board. So I want to keep these front foot switches available for things that I'm going to actually need to switch on and off as I'm going through. So hope that makes sense. What I'm going to do now quickly is save my work. In fact, I'll call this something. I'm going to call it preset. I think 16A was where I was, I think. So I'm going to call this Lee, just because it's easy. Lee, just so I'm not spending too much time. In fact, I'll call it Lee Solo. Lee Solo. Get rid of these other ones. So with the HX effects, by the way, you can actually do all this stuff with the software. Excuse me. I spent a couple of weeks ill, by the way, if my voice sounds a bit funky. That's why it is. I've had a bit of a dodgy thing going on. So yeah, that should now be saved. If I go to mode now, yeah, we've got 16A Lee solo. We go back to signal flow. So what I'm now going to do, the next thing, which is something I've always imagined I would do in this situation, using this as a solo piece of gear, is I'm going to go all the way to the beginning. I'm going to add another EQ block and hope this will make sense. I've not actually done this either, so I don't know if it works, but it should, because I do know how the HX effects works. I've been using it for a couple of years in my band situation. So if I put a mono, another one of the same, the Cali Q graphic in there, but move it to path B, and then go over to the Y split. If I can remember how this works. Yeah, so the split Y, if I put balance A, balance A all the way to the left, 100% to the left, and balance B all the way over to the right, what that should do is it should make this EQ block only affected by input B, which is the input of my pickup that I've got in under the bridge of the guitar, which is what I use for the bass drum thud. So effectively, this will only affect that pickup, which is really cool because I can have it on a foot switch to boost the bass when I'm doing that bass drum thud, and then I can switch it off again to play chords and stuff. So I'm going to assign that a foot switch, not the split. The split can stay as it is. So yeah, leave that there. I'm going to assign that foot switch 2, I think is the one at the bottom. And I'm going to quickly boost 2 decibels, 1 decibel, leave the middle one as is, and then I'll take the high frequencies down, so I've got a real bassy sound there. So that's down by 2.5. I'll bring this down by 2.5 as well. So that should, in theory, bring the bass up. So if I go over here, because I actually want this to merge, wrong one. I want this to merge back in straight away because I only want this one thing. In fact, I'll leave one gap there, which in effect should be, multiple. I don't want that to be 2. I wanted that to be 4. So apologies about that noise. My laptop is running out of battery. Go back to signal flow. So the foot switch for this should be foot switch 4. So it's not multiple anymore. There we go. So down here we've got this graphic which will only affect the one pickup. So if we go back to signal flow, and again, anything that you're not understanding here, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to explain it better. So here I'm going to add a volume pan, a mono volume. I'm going to add a volume pedal with its position at 0, which is a volume pedal but off, which should mute the other pickup, which should mean if I assign that foot switch 4, the same as the other one, turn it off, in effect, this foot switch now, at the same time, will boost the bass of the bridge pickup and mute the sound hole pickup with one click, ready for the bass drum thud. So I can go in there and action, customize, and rename that. I can name it kick, for example. I've actually wanted to do this whole setup thing for some time. I've just never got round to doing it, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to jump on and do a video about it. Hopefully it's interesting to somebody. If any of you are getting anything out of this, please do let me know so that I know that I'm right to do kind of experimental things. Come back up to there, delete that one. There should be an easier way of deleting characters than this, but there we go. So kick. So down here now we've got that kick which does the two things at once, which I think is really cool. So the next thing that I need to do now is add an octave, because that's something that I already use in my set. So the most important thing for me is to be able to play my current set with this before messing around with other things that I can throw into the mix. So I'm going to press the big knob there, same as before. Go down to pitch and synth. I think in Legacy, the bass octaver. Throw that in and switch it off a second. I'm not sure where that's going to put that there, so yeah, down here. That's all right, actually. Let me see how that sounds. I've got my guitar plugged in, you see, so. That reverb sounds quite cool. And you'll see what I mean about the kick. So that's without, that's with the kick. So I can loop that. So the octave thing, I want to take the normal out completely. I don't want to hear the normal at all. I want it just to be bass. Tone, I'm going to put at 60%, and octave, I'll drop to 80. Should be alright. There's a bit of an odd grumbly sound there. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's just something going on. I'll figure that out at a later date. I don't want to bore you with trying to troubleshoot and things. So that's quite a cool thing. That's easy to throw in there. Something that I've always wanted to do with my solo set is have the ability to play solos with a little bit of overdrive. So now I've got the possibility to do that. I'll do it in signal flow again so I know where it's actually going. I'll put it there, slap bang in the middle. I'll go there and I'll go to distortion. Oh, I think I might have added the wrong thing. That's dynamics. Distortion, mono, and I'll add a Minotaur. That's a Clon Centaur model. I'm going to give it some on the gain. But I don't want the volume to be too high compared to without it. So I'm going to drop the level quite a bit. There definitely should be a little lift, so I think 4.5. So if I throw in, yeah, that's cool down there. If I throw in a simple loop of Magnolia or something, because I've not got the loop pedal on the floor, it's a bit difficult to do, so I'm going to have to kind of do it like a... And then I should be able to add That's pretty cool. I've always wanted to be able to do that. And that's pretty much all I wanted to go over, to be honest, in this video, was a basic setup just to see if the whole thing would work, and apparently it does. Obviously the kick thing's before the looper, the overdrive and the octave are before the looper, the graphic and the reverb are after the looper. We can see that here in the signal flow. We've got the kick thing separated, so it's only affecting one pickup. Obviously I've still got the control on the guitar if I want to adjust it a little bit, but I think that's quite a cool setup and a cool way of using the HX effects. I will probably do a follow-up video to this once I have some kind of board to bolt this to and a way of powering both of these from one outlet, but I'm going to leave that here up to now, I think. And I did say that it'd be a little bit of an open-ended video, but I hope you've got something out of this and learned kind of how the HX effects works. If you're in Europe, I'll leave links to the HX effects and the RC500 in the description down below. They're kind of affiliate links. They are affiliate links with Thomann, however you want to say it, in Germany. But yeah, I don't actually get any money back from it, I don't think. I think I just get credits or something. I'm not sure how it works. But anyway, it helps the channel out if you're going to acquire one of these two to buy it through my links. It doesn't cost you any more to do. But other than that, if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed if you're not already by hitting the subscribe link down below. And all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week with another video. Until next time, bye-bye.